I welcome you to my channel. Subscribe and listen to my new stories every day. As the calendar page flipped to mark our 7th wedding anniversary, I felt a spark of excitement, a cruise ticket, a perfect surprise for Clara, whose dreams often sailed across the ocean in her sleep. With the brochure glossy under my fingers, I imagined us drifting away from our mundane routine, anchored only by our love. I hid the ticket in my desk, under the veneer of everyday paperwork, a secret waiting for the right moment. But as the days marched toward our celebration, Clara's routine shifted subtly. "Another late night, I'm afraid," she'd murmur, her voice a ghost through the phone, hollow and distant. Her office had become a vortex, swallowing more of her time, more of us. My trust, usually steadfast, began to wobble on its axis. I wrestled with my doubts until they drove me to act. A private detective, Mr. Arnold, came with discreet recommendations and a sharp eye. Handing over a photo of Clara, I felt the weight of betrayal coiling around my heart. "Just routine suspicion, I hope," I told him, my voice steady but thin. Arnold's findings came quicker than expected. Photos, timestamps, cold facts that cut through my denial. There she was, Clara, not chained to her desk but entwined with a coworker, Tom, from her accounts team, in clandestine laughter and stolen touches. The images burned behind my eyes, igniting a fury so raw, so fierce, I could taste the venom on my tongue. My rage became an open secret, a storm that everyone around me could feel brewing. At the bar, with friends, even in the quiet of an empty house, my anger found an audience. "I could kill him," I spilled, the words more than hyperbole, a dark promise to the night. Then, the unimaginable, a thud on our doorstep in the dead hours of a Wednesday morning. Tom, lifeless, his blood a stark contrast against our welcome mat. Sirens wailed their impending arrival, a red and blue symphony to my panic. Clara's face, pale as the moon, turned to me, feigning shock. But her eyes, those windows to churn storms, held a glint of something calculated, cold. "You didn't," she whispered, a question not needing an answer. The police found the evidence conveniently compelling, my public threats, a glove, my size, behind our garden shrubs. The trap was set, sprung, and I was the prey caught in the middle of a meticulously crafted frame. Battling the tide of betrayal and the slam of a cell door, I pieced together her motive through the bars. Clara, driven not by love but by a dark desire to escape our marriage, to pin her crime on me, and vanish with the insurance money and a fabricated widow's grief. But the truth clawed its way out through the cracks of her plot. A mistake, a receipt she forgot to destroy, proof of her purchasing the very gloves found at our home. Slowly, the real story emerged, and with it, my exoneration. Freed but shattered, I faced Clara across the courtroom, her mask finally fallen. "I never knew you," I told her, the words a chasm between us. She was sentenced, but my revenge was colder, a life dismantled by her own hands. Divorce papers, signed with a tremble, were the final full stop to our saga. Clara, the woman I loved, the murderer I divorced, vanished from my life like a ship disappearing on the horizon. As I stood alone, the cruise ticket fluttered from my desk, an unrealized dream, a reminder of a voyage that was supposed to be ours. Now, it was just a piece of paper caught in the storm, a prelude to a journey I would navigate alone, steering through the wreckage of betrayal toward a horizon of my own making. The courtroom's stale air suffocates me as I sit, waiting for the hammer of justice to fall. Clara's trial had become the talk of the town, a spectacle fed by whispers and wary glances. I sit in the back, a silent observer of the unraveling of the woman I once vowed to cherish. "Mr. Sullivan," a familiar voice calls out from beside me. Detective Arnold, notebook in hand, looks as weary as the justice system we're entrusting. "Found anything new?" I ask, hoping my involvement might unearth more than just the bitterness rooting inside me. "Just observing today." "Patterns, Mr. Sullivan, they tell the real story," he replies, scribbling something indecipherable. His eyes, sharp and focused, never leave Clara, who sits like a marble statue, beautiful, cold, and increasingly isolated. As the prosecutor presents the case, detailing Clara's deception and murderous intent, murmurs ripple through the crowd. I catch snippets of conversations, echoes of my own disbelief and rage. "He was so angry, could have done it himself," one voice suggests, shivering down my spine. "No, didn't you see the evidence? She bought those gloves, planned it all," another counters, bolstering my fragmented spirit. "Please describe the events of that night," the prosecutor directs towards me. My heart pounds as I take the stand, the weight of every eye in the room pressing down on me. "We argued that night about her coming home late again. She left in a huff. Later, I heard a noise at the door, and found him. I never touched Tom," I state, my voice firm, hoping it hides the quiver of my resolve. Clara's lawyer is a viper, quick and questioning. "Isn't it true you threatened Mr. Evans multiple times?" "Publicly," he hisses. I feel the trap snapping shut, the courtroom's air thickening. "Yes, but it was never serious," I retort, but doubt flickers across some faces. The trial blurs into a parade of accusations and testimonies. Outside, the sky mirrors my turmoil, clouds gathering as if to drown the city in sorrow. As I leave the courthouse, a storm breaks, rain washing over the streets, cleansing or condemning, I can't tell which. In the following days, I delve into Clara's past, seeking threads to unravel her deceit. My search leads me to old friends, distant relatives, anyone who might shine a light on the darkness. Each conversation adds layers to her betrayal, painting a picture of a woman I never truly knew. One evening, a break in the clouds. A former colleague of Clara's meets me in a dimly lit bar, her eyes darting around before settling on mine. She always wanted a way out, talked about starting over. But I never thought. She trails off, sipping her drink like it's a lifeline. Starting over? I probe, sensing the edge of a deeper abyss. "Yeah," said she felt trapped, by life, by you, she admits, her words slicing through the murmur of the bar. I lean back, the pieces of Clara's puzzle locking into place with a chilling clarity. Her plans, her lies, all designed to forge a new path, on the ruin of my own. Betrayal, it seems, had been her companion far longer than I had. As the night grows heavy around me, I vow to strip away the facade Clara has crafted, to reveal the architect of my despair to the world. The storm within me builds, not of rain and thunder, but of fury and resolve. The quest for truth becomes my beacon, guiding me through the remnants of a life shattered by the woman I once loved. The city is quiet as I drive through the night, the streetlights casting long shadows across my car's dashboard. The information from Clara's colleague has ignited a desperate need within me to seek out more, to understand the depth of her deceit. My next stop is an old apartment where Clara had lived before we married. According to a tip, someone there still remembers her well. I park under a flickering streetlight and climb the creaking stairs to the third floor. I knock on the door marked 3B, my heart drumming a nervous beat. An elderly woman answers, her gaze cautious but curious. "Mrs. Jenkins?" I inquire. "I was told you might have known Clara Sullivan." Her eyes narrow, recognition slowly dawning. "Come in," she says, her voice a mix of wariness and hospitality. The apartment smells of sage and something sweet baking in the oven. "I knew Clara, yes. Lovely girl, but always a bit restless," she begins, offering me a seat and a cookie. "I'm trying to piece together some things from her past," I explain, skipping the pleasantries. "Anything you remember could help." Mrs. Jenkins nods, settling into her armchair like it's a confessional. "Clara talked about escaping, about needing a change. Said she felt like she was playing a part, waiting for the right time to drop the act." "Did she mention anyone specific? Maybe someone she was close to or planning with?" I press, my voice eager, almost desperate. "There was someone," she hesitates, "a man, not you. Came by a few times. They seemed intimate." I thought it was odd, considering she was engaged to you. I absorb her words, each one a hammer strike to the facade of the life I thought I'd built with Clara. Do you remember his name? Anything about him? Tom, she says, and my heart stutters. Tom Evans. He was very attentive to her. Even brought her flowers once. The connection sets my thoughts ablaze. Tom, the dead man on my doorstep, not just a co-worker but a piece of a puzzle stretching back further than I imagined. Thank you, Mrs. Jenkins, I say, standing up, my mind racing with the implications. Leaving her apartment, the night air feels colder, sharper. I drive, not home, but to another address, one that Clara had scribbled on a piece of paper I found hidden in her drawer. The address leads me to a small art gallery in the heart of downtown. Inside, the walls are lined with vibrant paintings, but I'm drawn to the office where I find the gallery owner, a middle-aged man with a keen eye. I'm looking for information about Clara Sullivan, I announce without preamble. The man studies me, his expression unreadable. Clara was here often. Loved the art, or so she said. Was particularly close to one of our artists, Tom. My frustration grows, the pieces forming a picture too horrendous to contemplate. Did she buy anything? Anything at all? He pulls out records, showing me invoices for pieces Clara purchased, but never took home. Sent to another address, he notes, pointing to a familiar name beside a shipping address. It's Tom's apartment. Armed with new evidence, I leave the gallery as the first light of dawn creeps across the sky. Each discovery, each lie uncovered, fuels my resolve. Clara had crafted this plot carefully, weaving Tom into our lives not just as a lover, but as a partner in her ultimate betrayal. I return home, the silence greeting me more chilling than comforting. But now, I'm not just gathering evidence, I'm building my case, piece by piece. Clara wanted to destroy my life, but I'm not just a victim of her plot, I'm the architect of her downfall. As the sun rises, so does my determination. The truth is my weapon, and I will wield it without mercy. The courtroom falls silent as I step forward, the final hearing about to commence. Clara, already pale, blanches further as I approach the witness stand, a sheaf of papers in my hand, her undoing meticulously documented and ready to be revealed. Your Honor, I begin, my voice steady, commanding the room's attention. I have new evidence, crucial to this case, showing a premeditated plan not just for murder, but for betrayal most foul. The judge nods, gesturing for me to continue. I lay out the documents, each one a nail in Clara's coffin, receipts, photographs, witness statements, all painting a vivid picture of her duplicity. As you can see, I say, pointing to a series of emails between Clara and Tom, their affair was not just a fleeting indiscretion but part of a larger, darker scheme. The prosecutor takes up the thread, her questions sharp, incisive. Clara tries to deflect, to deny, but the evidence is overwhelming. Her face crumbles as her web of lies unravels before the court. But I'm not done yet. Once the trial adjourns, with Clara facing a lengthy sentence, I take a detour before heading home. My last stop is a secluded warehouse on the city's outskirts where Tom used to sculpt his grotesque artworks. Inside, the air is thick with dust and long-held secrets. I'm not alone. Waiting in the shadows is the gallery owner, his face grim. You were part of this, I accuse, my voice low, dangerous. He doesn't deny it, his resignation palpable. Clara was persuasive, seductive. I was a fool. Yes, you were, I agree, stepping closer, an ominous click echoing as I cock a gun, a dramatic, final measure of control. And fools must pay a price. His eyes widen in terror, but there's no mercy in my heart. With a swift, decisive motion, I fire, not to kill, but to maim. A shot to the leg, a punishment to remember me by. Leaving him writhing and howling, I stride back to my car, the cold satisfaction of vengeance settling in. But it's not over yet. My final act awaits at the bank. Withdrawing every cent of our joint savings, I ensure Clara's return to society will be as destitute as her morals. I transfer the funds to various charities, a cleansing of the tainted wealth we once shared. Back at home, I pack my belongings, leaving behind only the ghost of the life I thought I knew. Before I step out for the last time, I take one last item, a photograph of us, happier times, a reminder of the deception that lurked beneath. I toss the photo into the fireplace, watching as the flames consume our past, the edges curling, blackening under the heat. As the last of the picture turns to ash, I feel a release, a finality. I drive away from the city, the rising sun casting long shadows behind me. My old life is gone, burned away by betrayal and revenge. Ahead lies a new path, uncharted and uncertain, but mine alone to shape. In the rearview mirror, the city skyline fades, a chapter closed forever. Clara's betrayal birthed a darkness in me, a ruthlessness I hadn't known I possessed. But now, as the distance grows, I find a strange peace in the solitude of the road, the promise of a new beginning whispered by the winds of change.